had a wonderful question from one of the participants on last week. Maybe if we'll have a little bit of time, we'll get into it. But let's keep on from where we were last week. We're going to today, we're going to go today into the parsha of the Akeida, which is such an unbelievable parsha. The Rashi there is also, it doesn't comment that much over there, but we'll, there's many pasukim to ask on the pasukim directly, many questions, but we're going to start straight from the, we're going to focus on the first Rashi. So again, it says here in the box that, everybody can see it, right? Va'elokim nisas Avram, vayomer elav Avram, vayomer hineni. So after the above words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is testing Avram. That's a pasuk pshat, and he told Avram, and he said hineni. Rabbi, so what would you say about the following question, which is not yet directed on Rashi, but generally speaking, we know that this is the 10th Nisan of Avram Avinu. There's some opinions that said it's the 9th, but it's high up there. So how come it's the only first time? How come it's the first time the Torah says "V'Elokim nisas Avram"? If I would just follow Pshuta Shel Mikra, I would say Avram Avinu was tested only once. No, but Chazal say that the first one was Lech Lecha, and the last one was Lech Lecha, and then the famine in the land, and taking Sarah, and the Bris of Yishmael. I'm not going according to the order, of course, but they were all Nisyonis. So how come the Torah just writes it over here? Because it's the biggest Nisan? So what? Does that make the other 9 Nisyonis meaningless? Yeah, it is the biggest Nisan. It's probably all-encompassing. Ames. But how's that help? How come the Torah didn't say Va'elokim nisas Avram on the previous 9 Nisyonis? What would you answer, Rabbi, on that kind of kasha? Okay, not everybody at once, Chavre, not everybody at once, laat. What would you say?
Let's see what Rashi says.
Rashi, let's see, does Rashi say anything on that? Listen, I'm more than happy. Let's read the Rashi. Okay, so let's put this question meanwhile on the back burner, and we'll see if Rashi's relating to it. Okay, let's give it a try. So what does Rashi say in Baksiyud? Achar advarim ha'ele, yesh merabotenu omrim achar devarav shel Satan. After the words of the Satan, shaya mekatreg v'omer, he was persecuting and saying, because Suda Shasa Avraham lo hikriv lefanecha par echad or ayil echad. From all the festivals and meals and Thanksgivings that Avraham Avinu had, he didn't offer you even one animal. Amar lo, HaKadosh Baruch Hu replied, Klum asa ela b'shvil bno. All what he did was for his son. Ilo hayiti omer lo zach oto lefanai. Offer him, lo haya ma'akev, he would have not held back. So let's go through our stages. What was Rashi bothered by?
Achar Dvar Me'ela also has to have something that previously is talking about what's about to happen.
Meaning, so what was Rashi bothered by? Simply put, what was he bothered by?
What are the Dvarim?
Very good. Which Dvarim? A very simple, straightforward question. Which Dvarim are we talking about? Good. So why don't we say it's just the previous parsha, whatever happened before, the bris with Avimelech? So then maybe let's rephrase our question. Rashi is not stam asking which Dvarim, rather which Dvarim triggered the Akeida. Right? Because after these things, the Akeida came. So the Akeida is some kind of response to the Dvarim that was said. Whatever was mentioned before had nothing to do with Avimelech, has nothing to do with Akeida. So which words triggered the Akeida? So says Rashi, the words of the Satan, that he was persecuting and saying, from every Suda that Avram Avinu did, he did not show his gratitude towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, whatever he did was for his son. If I'm going to ask his son to offer a son, he'll agree. Fine. So let's give the words of the Satan are not mentioned in the Torah. So how can you say achar advarim ha'ele on the words of a sudden? So let's give a look what the Gemara says in Baksud Aleph. Here in Baksud Aleph. Achar dvarav shel Satan. The imlo ken, if it's not the words of a sudden, my achar advarim ha'ele, the komar, the mashma, it's implying shetoleh hadavar. It's hinging on binyan niskal lemala. What does it have to do? El achar dvarav shel Satan. ואף על גב שדבר השטן לא נזכר בכתוב. That's the question. So how could you say Eile on things which are not mentioned in the pasuk? Says the Maharal. By the way, today's the yard set of the Maharal. And today is Chai Elul. 411 years ago, the Maharal was nifter. Says the Holy Maharal, ואף על גב שדבר השטן לא נזכר בכתוב, כיוון דכסיב בקרא סעודה שעשה אברהם, but it does refer that Abraham Avinu did a feast, did a meal. כאילו כתיב בפירוש דברי השטן. It's a given. Devadai hayam mekatreg. The Satan will not blow such an opportunity. So yes, it's not written explicitly, but we all know that that's what happened. It's so obvious and so predictable, you can consider it as if it's written in the Torah. Fine. Because what was written in the Torah initially? The Su'udah that Abraham Avinu did for his friends in that time. Let's go back a second. Well, how old was Yitzchak when the Akeida was done?
36.
37. Right? Chazal say 37. Good. How old was he when that Su'udah happened, that Abraham Avinu did a Su'udah?
When he was weaned.
When he was weaned. So how old was he then?
3.
Two. So what happened for 35 years? Makara. The Maharal saying for sure the Satan won't miss such an opportunity that he saw that Abraham Avinu was doing a tremendous meal for his friends and he didn't bring HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That happened when Yitzchak was 2. Now Yitzchak is 37. What happened in the interim? Look carefully in the words of Rashi and tell me an answer. So let's just classify which term are we talking about. It's stage 2. Let's go over the Rashi just one more time. Rashi was bothered by which words triggered the Akeida. Achar dvarav shel Satan. שהיה מקטרג ואומר מכל סעודה שעשה אברהם לא יקריב לפניך פער אחד או עין אחד. אמר לו, so הקדוש ברוך הוא replied, כלום עשה לו בשביל בנו, אילו הייתי אומר, לא זבח אותו לפני לא היה מעכב. If Rashi is just coming to explain what's achar dvarim ha'elu dvarav shel Satan, why does Rashi have to say what HaKadosh Baruch Hu replied to the Satan? Why didn't he just stop achar dvarav shel Satan? You want to know what dvar means? The words of the Satan. Oh, fine, thank you. So why did Rashi have to add this line? If we'll take out this line, what will be missing? You want to know which words there were? The words of the Satan.
Because that line is the line that indicates why the Akeida. If you're saying he was just doing it for Yitzchak, so then have him sacrifice Yitzchak. You'll see if it matters.
Excellent. Meaning, because again, Rashi is not just bothered what does achar dvarim mean, rather Rashi is bothered by how did this trigger the Akeida. So Rashi is telling you. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, we'll do an Akeida.
There were other nisyonos between, surely.
So
So the Akeida is not the nisyon that is a response to the Dvar Shal Satan. If in these times, there were a lot of nisyon. Fewer.
The Akeida is said achar dvarim ha'elu. The other nisyonos it doesn't say achar dvarim ha'elu. The Akeida was a response to the Satan. What were the other nisyonos about? Not a response to the Satan. Nisyonos that Avraham had to go through. Fine. So what do you say about this kasha? That happened 35 years ago, especially in light of the Maharal, that it all for sure happened after that Su'udah. Look when this Su'udah happened. That's in Parshas Vayera. That's when Yitzchak was 2, when he was weaned. Now he's 37. So in what category would you say our question now is about? In 1 or in 2? 1 was what was Rashi bothered by? 2, right? The words of the Satan. Why does Satan wake up after 35 years? Look carefully in the wording of Rashi, and you'll see that he took care of it.
Klum asa.
There's an interesting diuk. Can I give you a little bit of a hint? Let me underline.
It's present tense, not
Do you see a difference with the way Rashi is wording the Satan talking and Rashi wording HaKadosh Baruch Hu talking?
HaKadosh Baruch Hu's past tense.
Of course, it happened in the past. What's Mekatrek v'omer?
Maybe it's implying that it's ongoing.
Ongoing, past continuous, the way we call it in English. It doesn't say kitreg v'amar. Mekatreg v'omer. Something's going on for 35 years already. He didn't start today. He started a while ago. And he's nudging and nudging and nudging the whole time. Now HaKadosh Baruch Hu replied, why? Why? Okay, but it's also a good question to know. If the Satan's making a fuss about this already for 35 years, how do I see it? Because Rashi didn't say shekitreg, kitreg v'amar. Rather mekatreg v'omer. That's constantly. HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided now to respond. The lashon of the Medrash is higia hasha'ah. The hour has come. Okay, what does that mean? I don't know for sure, but what I could say is you have to wait for a certain level that Yitzchak will be ready to do the Akeida. Obviously, he's not ready to do it when he's 2 or when he's 10. That's a major undertaking. It has to be a fair test. Yitzchak now could do it. So to speak, so the Satan was going on already for the last 35 years. HaKadosh Baruch Hu replied now. Okay, so we finished stage 1 and we finished stage 2, B'chura, right? Stage 1 was what was Rashi bothered by? And stage 2, Rashi answered. Part of stage 2, though, nevertheless, is the Satan right or wrong? Is gerecht or nicht gerecht? Does he have a good point? Yes or no? And either way, I have a problem. If the Satan is right, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should tell him, you're right. You have a good point. If the Satan is wrong, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should tell him, you're wrong. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't say you're right. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't say you're wrong. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you know what, let's do an Akeida. But how does that answer the fact that Avraham Avinu, for the last 35 years, did not do any offering for HaKadosh Baruch Hu? What's the real answer to the Satan's question? L'chor, he seems to be saying a very valid point. He did not offer you any korban for over the last, since he was born. Yitzchak's already 37 years old. A good kasha. So what's the Kashbu answer? Well, all what he did was for his son, let's do the Akeida, and yeah, but why didn't he offer anything for the last 35 years? And mimanav shach, like we say in yeshivas, mimanav shach means either way you want. If the Satan's right, tell him you're right. If the Satan's wrong, tell him you're wrong. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't say neither. It doesn't say either. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you know, all what he did was for his son. If I'm going to ask him to offer his son, he will not hold back.
The Satan's not where Hashem's responding isn't to the factual truth. It's to the implication that the Satan is drawing out of that.
Okay.
So he said, so yeah, okay, it's true that Avraham didn't bring a korban, but where they're disagreeing on, does that mean that Avraham only did everything selfishly or not?
How come he didn't bring a korban? For 35 years, that's a long time. We're going to have the same issue in the next Rashi. So again, I would term that this is part of stage 2. What's the answer? Telling this, what are you answering him? The words of the Satan are the ones that triggered the Akeida. How does the Akeida fit into here? Or he's right, or he's wrong. Or he has a good time, or he doesn't have a good time. What does the Akeida do? Will the Akeida justify why Avram Avinu did not bring a korban for the last 35 years? What he knew 35 years ago, they'll do the Akeida?
Do we have the expectation that he should have brought korbanos?
That's what that something's saying. If not, so tell him you're wrong. You don't have to do that Akeida to tell him that he's wrong. If this expectation is unbased, let's go with that. If the expectation is unbased, okay, so then just tell him, I'm sorry, he didn't have to bring a korban. Either way, or he's right or he's wrong, what does the Akeida do here? How come these words triggered the Akeida? So first, I think you were touching upon it a little bit. With that, what is? Let's start. What you pointed it out before, Mrs. Klein. You're saying, did Avram Avinu really forget about HaKadosh Baruch Hu? That's what the son's saying. Right. He did a big party for his friends, not for you. Tells HaKadosh Baruch Hu back to the son. I'm sorry. Here are the words. Klum lo asa ela b'shvil bno. All what he did was for his son. Right? What is he saying here? All what he did was for his son. And if I'm going to ask him to offer his son, he won't hold it back. So he does acknowledge that Yitzchak comes from me. Because if I'll ask him to offer him back, he'll do it immediately. So then where are the korbanos for the last 35 years? You're misreading the Seudos, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the Satan. The Seudos were a Seudos Hadah, a thanksgiving to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'll prove it to you through the Akeida. Meaning, yes, they were done big meals. Yes. How do you understand it? Is it being selfish and he just wants to have a good time with his friends? Is that what it means? Or it's a Suda Sadah, like we call today. Someone has a miracle and has a Suda Sadah. What does he do? He invites his friends over. Is there anything wrong with that? Not at all. That's the mitzvah. Why is that okay? Because that's the way to say thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So you want him to say the thank you in the form of a parva ayil, of a korban. There's other ways to show thank you. And the undercurrent motive for all these meals that he had was to say thank you to me. How? Because all the meals you agree he did for his son. And if I'm going to ask him to offer that son to me, he'll do it. So that means he understands that he got it for me and therefore I could ask it back. So through the Akeida, it will be proven that Avraham Avinu looks at Yitzchak as a deposit, as a gift that was given to him by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to ask for the deposit back, he'll get it back. And that will interpret that Avraham Avinu does acknowledge that Yitzchak is coming from Hashem. And all the meals that he did till now, and all the parties that he had till now, were a Suda Sadah. So why is there a need for the Akeida for that? So why is that enough just to explain that? So why is that enough that Kodesh Baruch Hu should say that? I'm testifying, I'm telling you that Avram Avinu, deep down in his heart, all the meals were a Suda Sadah to me. Chaim, tell Tell the guy to join us. Okay? Good. The guy, the girl, whoever it is. So so if that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is answering, why do you need the Akeida?
And maybe it's not a coincidence that the Akeida is a sacrifice and the claim is on a lack of sacrifices.
Okay. Good. They're both sacrifices. Nice thought.
Maybe there's taka some tvi on some level that Avram Avinu maybe taka should have on some darkest level. Taka presented something, just the leman, leman the thanks.
If that's the case, so he should have. So finish. He didn't do it. But he flunked.
And so maybe he's taka being tested with his own son to the satan is makatrik. Meaning if we cause something to be a kitrug, once you trigger the satan, it has to be dealt with.
Oh, so let's go into this side. There's something that the satan has an ability to say. Show me. Because you're testifying what he hears, what he feels inside his heart. Bring it out, please. What's the classical example that the satan could do that? You all know it. A satan, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said something, and the satan said, "Bring it out. Let me see."
By Eov.
For sure. What happened there in Eov? Excellent. What happened by Eov? By Eov, what happened in Eov is HaKadosh Baruch Hu told the satan, "Did you see my Eved Eov? There's no one like him." Said the satan, "Yeah, of course. He has everything going for him. Health, wealth, children, everything. Take it away. Let's see how he's going to behave then." And that's the power of HaKadosh Baruch Hu delegated authority to the satan to ask that. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the satan has the ability to say, "HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's your word. I want to see it." I know HaKadosh Baruch Hu could see what goes on in Belev, what's going in the hearts, but I want to see it. So the satan is telling HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I didn't see anything tangible that Avram Avinu did till now for you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're telling me that in a subtle way, all the seudas and what he did till now were a subtle way of telling me thank you. Could you please show me that? Tar Eli. That's the koach of a satan. Tar Eli. That's his ability. But good. Fine. Beseder Gomer. So therefore he says, if we'll do the Akeida, he would not hold back. So that means I'll prove my point. That Yitzchak, Avram Avinu views him as a gift for me, and he expressed it till now in one way. I will show it to you in an open way that will not hold back. He will not hold back, Yitzchak. Fine.
Question, Rabbi?
Yeah, go ahead. I make sure I can hear you for sure. Go ahead.
Where did Hazal see that Abraham was making these seudot all of these years? I mean, beside the one pasuk, it says he made the mishteh, when Yitzhak was weaned. So we see. So how do they know?
Good kasha. The only thing I can answer is it's a given. It's a given. If he made one, he probably did a few. Probably on every birthday. Probably. But where do you see it? Lehedya? Good kasha. Good kasha. Okay, Rabbi say. Let's go on.
Thank you.
Let's go now to Rashi number 2. And let's remember, we'll just remember the stages that we did on the first one. Let's see now the Rashi number 2. B'yesho imrim.
So on the first Rashi, just one moment.
Okay.
Would you learn that there's taka some level of tvia on Avram Avinu? On some.
It's not that he did anything wrong, but the satan could say, "Show me." Did Eov do anything wrong?
No.
No. But he could say, "Show me."
Okay.
I would say exactly like you compared it to Eov, b'diuk.
Okay.
Avram Avinu didn't do anything wrong, but the satan has the right to say, "I want to see it," because it's not enough that we have a good heart. We also have to bring it out. In fact, that's how the Ramban explains the whole idea of the Nisayan. What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu have to make Nisayanis? That's not HaKadosh Baruch Hu now. But it's not enough that we have a good inside heart. You got to bring it. You got to activate it and make it tangible and outside. Fine. Let's go to the next one. V'yesh omrim. Others say, Achar dvarav shel Yishmael. After the words of Yishmael, Shaya mitpa'er al Yitzchak, that he was boosting over Yitzchak, Shemal ben Yud Gimel Shana. Yishmael said, I did a circumcision when I was 13 years old. V'lo micha. And he did not protest. You did a circumcision when you're 8 days old. You had no say on the matter anyway. So my bris milah is much more meaningful than yours. Okay. Okay. Again, the Maharal is going to say, how do we know that Yishmael said that? Well, because since the Torah points out that he was circumcised on day 8, for sure Yishmael would not miss this opportunity to say that he's better. Okay. The same idea that before. Okay. Amar lo Yitzchak. So Yitzchak told him, Be'ever echad atam miyareni? You're trying to scare me with one limb? Ilu amar li HaKadosh Baruch Hu zvach atzmacha lefanai. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have told me to offer my whole self, lo hayiti makev. I would not hold back. So let's go through the stages. What was Rashi bothered by? Which words triggered the Akeida? And Rashi answers the words of Yishmael. That he said that his bris milah is much more meaningful than Yitzchak's. So what does Yitzchak answer? You're trying to impress me with one limb? Because Baruch would have told me to offer my whole self. I would have. Is that an answer to Yishmael's taina? Let's go through it again. Yishmael's saying, my bris milah is more meaningful than yours. I did it when I had a free choice about the matter. I could have protested and I didn't. To you, it was done by others. Good taina. So what does Yitzchak answer? But I'm willing to do the Akeida? What does that have to do with the bris milah?
It's not so bad. He's showing like you were willing to be Meiser Nefesh on some level. I'm willing to be Meiser Nefesh.
But the bris milah that Am Yisrael does throughout the generations is inferior to Yishmael's. Today that we do a bris milah to our children 8 days old, and hopefully there'll be no Akeida later on in their life. So Yishmael wins. And that's called Tano B'chitim V'odalo B'sorim. He said, my bris milah is more meaningful than yours. Yeah, but I'm willing to do something else. Yeah, but I'm speaking to you about bris milah. So what's your answer? What's your answer on the fact that the bris milah that the Jewish people do is done when the person that's being circumcised has no say on the matter? And Yishmael is saying, I did it when I was 13, and I could have stopped it, and I did not. So my bris milah is so much more meaningful than yours. Tells you, it's like, yeah, but I'm willing to do the Akeida. Very nice. You know what? What will be if Yishmael will answer, I'm also willing to do an Akeida? Who said Yishmael would not be willing to do it? What's the dialogue here? So Bishlama, before in the first Rashi, I hear the Satan saying, I don't see any gratitude that it looks at Yitzchak as coming from you. Answers HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's there the whole time. You don't see it, but it's there the whole time. I'll show it to you through the Akeida. Fine, I got it. The Satan wants to know, show it to me. And through the Akeida, it will be evident that Avraham Avinu acknowledges that Yitzchak is a matana from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and all what he did till now was a Suda Saidah. Fine. But you know what, Rabbi said, maybe before, I just want to make sure we can go through what we... when did Yishmael do his bris milah when he was 13? A year before Yitzchak was born. That's what it says, when Avraham Avinu was 99. So today it's Yitzchak is 37. What happened? Again, the same question. Why did Yishmael wake up now? So before we go into that other question of what the dialogue, what happened? Where was he for the last 37, 38 years? And again,
Can I add a question?
just in a minute, 1 second, just 100%, just a minute, just to finish it. Shayamit pa'el. Again, past continuous. He's the whole time saying it. Amalo Yitzchak. Yitzchak replied, Yes, what would you like to ask?
Is that if this is a whole dialogue between Yishmael and Yitzchak, then why is Abraham involved in the Akeida?
Oh, we're going to get to it. Very, very good kasha. So you know what? Meanwhile, put on the back burner the question I asked you before of the dialogue between Yishmael and Yitzchak. We'll come back to it. Yetz Hashem. What is the main difference between Rashi 1 and Rashi 2?
The first Rashi is directly having to do with Abraham.
Yes.
The second Rashi is really a dialogue between Yishmael and Yitzchak.
So what's the main difference?
One's about Avram, one's about Yitzchak.
According to the second shot of Rashi, how do you understand the pasuk Va'elokim nisas Avram?
You can't read it.
It shows Va'elokim nisas Yitzchak. That's called stage 3. So again, stage 3, you reread the pasuk. According to Rashi's first parish, when I reread the pasuk, I think it goes okay. After the words of the Satan, Va'elokim nisas Avram, because Baruch tested Avram, and the rest, it goes on. Yeah.
Maybe that's why you need both pshatim,
what's
because
the
this was a
second
test
pshat?
for Yitzchak and for Abraham.
No, but the pasuk doesn't mention that. This is a big question in Rashi number 2. According to Rashi number 2, it seems that the Nisayon was done for Yitzchak. The Akeida was done for Yitzchak, to be more exact. So how come the pasuk doesn't mention Yitzchak, but just mentions Abraham? That's a gavaldik kasha on Rashi number 2. Where do you discover this question? When you reread the pasuk. When you reread the pasuk, hey, if there's an argument going on between Yishmael and Yitzchak, what does Avraham Avinu have to do with it? The two siblings are fighting. What do you want from Avraham Avinu? Wonderful question. That's obviously the biggest difference between the two Perushim of Rashi. How will Perush 2 read the pasuk? So Rabbi say. Also, commentary number 2, Rashi's second explanation understands that Avraham Avinu had to go through a series of nisyanis. That's a fact. Why Avraham more than Yitzchak and Yaakov? Good kasha, but that's a fact. For sure, the nisyan was for Avraham, and again, this is not only the first nisyan, this is the 10th nisyan, as we mentioned before. What Yitzchak and Yishmael did, what role that they're playing is the timing. Why now? Because the Torah says, something happened now, which triggered the Akeida. It's not why the Nisayon, it's not about the Nisayon. Avraham Avinu has to go through Nisyanis. Like we said before, there's other non-Nisyanis over there, it doesn't say Chal B'Melo. But here the Torah is pointing out that it happened because of something after the Chal B'Melo. Which words made the Nisayon now? But why the Nisayon has to be done? Like the other 9 had to be done. But the timing of it is, meaning you're gaining something else in addition with that, which is a Chal B'Melo. But also the second shot of Rashi would agree, and this will shed a light also in the first shot. It's a Nisayon that Avraham Avinu has to go through. Full stop, like he went through the previous 9. The timing, what brought it up now, is because there's also extra mileage that we'll gain by doing it now. What? You'll answer back to the Satan. You'll answer back to Ishmael. But it has to be done. It has to be done anyway. Avraham Avinu has to go through the Nisyanis. So, boys, maybe before we go into the Rashi, here's the point, the time to address. If this is the 10th Nisayon of Avraham Avinu, why does it say only once, Va'elokim nisas Avram? The question that we raised before. So, boys, I want to tell you a yesod of the Maharal in many places, which again comes in so handy in so many places, and this is one example. There's a rule. Is there any rule what the Torah mentions and what the Torah doesn't mention? Is there any rule what the Torah reveals and what the Torah doesn't reveal? For example, Avraham Avinu came down to Mitzrayim, and it doesn't say that Sarah came down with him. Where was Sarah? She also came down. Where was she? In the box. So therefore she's thin air, she's dead. You don't count people in boxes? The whole parsha later on, it goes on about Sarah. The power took Sarah. What's the understanding of it? So again, as kids, you understand it, but once you grow up a little bit more, so Sarah's in a box. Fine. She's dead. She's gone. We don't count people in boxes. We like to think outside the box. What's the logic? Or what I say another time? Yaakov Avinu crossed the river of Yabok with 11 of his children. Asks Rashi, where's Dinah? Again in the box. I guess it was a family box that went down from one generation to another. And it would be pretty useful. Sometimes a detention box, you put people there. We only count 11 children. Was Dinah there? Yeah, she was there. Afterwards, the whole story happened with Dinah. So why don't you count her? She's in a box. We don't count people inside boxes. Why? And Rabbi, you could ask these questions and so many other. I'll give you another example. Yaakov Avinu. We have a recording in the Torah, almost play by play, like we say in America, on all what he did. Except if you add up all what's written in the Torah, when he met Paro, he should have been 116 years old. Those are the years that we have a recollection for. But he met Paro, and Paro asks him, how old are you? And he says 130. Uh-oh. Where are the missing 14 years? And Maseches Megillah, the Gemara has a whole amud, Mamish making calculations. Where are the 14 missing years? And what does the Gemara answer? Rashi quotes it also in Chumash.
Shem ve'ever.
Okay, so why doesn't it say it? Why doesn't it say it? Wasn't Shem? Vayelech Yaakov lebeis Shem ve'ever 14 shana. So how come the Torah didn't mention it? Is there any rule for these things? What the Torah mentions, what the Torah doesn't mention. Everything else that Yaakov Avinu was mentioned explicitly. The 14 years that he built up his whole personality and Shem ever, no, that's not mentioned. That you need a whole amud in the Gemara with a calculator to figure out that there's 14 missing years. Is there any rule for this? Says the Maral, absolutely. I'll give you one more example before I tell what the Maral says. When it says that Yaakov Avinu heard that his Dvara died, his Menekes died, says Rashi, there was another death that occurred there as well, which the Torah is not mentioning. What was the death? Rivka. It says she died. How come the Torah doesn't mention it? So there Rashi even a little bit helps to explain. We'll look it up soon. You know what the Maral answers? The Torah is not only telling us what happened, but how it happened. And if it was something hidden in the reality, it's hidden in the Torah as well. If the CNN reporter would have been then in the border of Egypt, would he have seen Sarah? No. Was she tangible and visible? No. So also in the Torah she's hidden. The same thing with the box of Dinah. The same thing with the 14 years of Yaakov Avinu and Shem Ever. You know what Lashon Rashi is in the end of Parshas told us? Hitmin atzmo. He was hiding. He was running away from Esau. And those 14 years that people asked each other, do you know where Yaakov is? So people would have said,
No idea.
I don't know. I hope he's okay. He left his home. He didn't reach Lamed yet. We got a letter the other day. I hope he's fine. We don't know where he is. If it's hidden in the reality, so it's hidden also in the Torah. That's how Yisod the Maral says a few times, not only in the Gemara.
I mean, you have many examples where the Medrash fills in so many details. There's not always the Kivshon Eish is not mentioned, one of the greatest of this.
So the point is, sometimes it's not mentioned because the Torah didn't cover that era. Whatever, that could be. But once you're there, you're speaking about Avram coming down to Mitzrayim. The next pasuk is that Paro took Sarah. How can you not mention her?
Right.
Let me just show you, for example, let me show this Rashi, because it's a good Rashi to know. You just 1 second to find it. Okay, wait a second. I'm sorry, this I should have prepared. Okay. Thomas. Okay. Here. Perek Lamed Hey, pasuk Lamed Ches. So let me share with you the screen immediately. Okay, here we are. Let's give a look. So what's it? But Thomas, this pasuk, right?
Menekes Rivka.
Right. What does it say? But Thomas dvora menekes Rivka. Vayikra shmo Alon b'chut. Okay. Says the Rashi, what we want is this part. Alon b'lashon Yavoni acher, another Avelus. I'm sorry, the Akeida. No, I really should start a little bit before. The Akeida nitbaser sham be'evel sheni. He had another Avelus. Shu gadlo al imo shemeta. He found out that his mother died. Alon b'lashon Yavani acher. So if Menekes died and his mother died, you mention the Menekes, you don't mention the mother. Menekes Rivka.
Right.
So ulefikach heilimu et yomota shelo yekalalu habriot keres sheyatzah mimeno Esav. The people should not curse the womb that Esav came from. Afa katuv lo pirsema. What is Rashi saying? Rashi is saying the point that we just now spoke about, namely what happened in the when Rivka Imenu died. It does not say there was no loudspeakers going around saying the Levaya of Rivka Imenu will go out from Shamgar. It was not. It was a top secret. The people should not Mikalo Rivka. It was done in a secretive way. So the Torah is also keeping it a secret. That is a rule of thumb that's good to know. Now tell me, how do you think that will help us with Akeida?
So there's no conversation.
How come it says only Vailukim Nisas Avram, only on the 10th Nisan? That's what we're going with, a more conventional understanding that the first Nisan is Lech Lecha, and the last one's the Akeida, and only on the last one it says Vailukim Nisas Avram. Why? Based on this moral, Rabbi said, I think you have a teretz. What's the teretz? Let me give you examples of the previous 9 Nisanos. Let's see a major difference. The first Nisan was that he moved to Eretz Israel. The second
It wasn't so apparent how it was a test.
I'm sorry?
It wasn't so apparent that it was a test. It looked like normal things that he was doing.
B'diuk. In Israel, they say along B'diuk. In England, there's a shop called B Kosher. It's all the same. The other 9 Nisanos, these are things that happen in life. I mean, someone could argue and say, who said it was done as an Nisan? That he went from one country to another? Yeah, people go. People today don't move from one country to another. There was a famine. Yeah, there's famine sometimes. It's like Corona. Who said it was done as a Nisan? The Mila, for example, is Nisan number 8. No, it wasn't a Nisan, maybe. It was a mitzvah. It was disguised. It could be disguised in just day-to-day events. That's what happens in life. The Akeida is clear-cut on the sign. This cannot be covered up, that this is events that happen to people. This is screaming loud and clear, this is a Nisan. So here the Torah will say, the other 9 Nisanos, it's covered up and, whatever, every day we have Nisanos. Could you point out to me what were your Nisanos out today? You'll see, you won't have such clarity. That you missed today the bus, was that a Nisan or not? I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe not. You had some kind of issue with someone today. Is that a Nisan or just there was a misunderstanding? when it's covered up by day-to-day events, it's not clear-cut, it's an assign. So the Torah is not going to call it straight out. It's an assign. But Akeida, ein malasot. Ein malasot. There's no way in the world that Kodesh Baruch Hu will tell someone, shecht your son. There's no cover up here, al piteva. So here the Torah will call a spade a spade. The Nukimni says Abraham. Okay, we say. So let's go up again, and let's just go again out, after we did all we did now, let's go now again to this, no, I'm sorry, I'm looking for something else. No, sorry. Okay, so let's go back. What is the conversation between Yishmael and Yitzchak? Is Yishmael right? That our bris milah is inferior? I guess so. I guess he has a good point.
Is he arguing just about bris milah or about a broader concept? Like, for example, the concept of always listening, or to Hashem, or the concept of...
It says bris milah. I don't have to add more to what it says. I did a bris milah when I could have said no. And your bris milah was when you're 8 days old. That's how the Maharal points it out. He's making that comparison. But
the core of his argument is that he had to use his bechira in doing that mitzvah. Like, it was his choice to do it or not do it. Whereas with Yitzchak, he didn't have a choice. He was a baby.
That's right.
So Yitzchak saying, when I have the choice, I would do even more.
It doesn't answer. I'm sorry. The Maisa, we do a bris milah today when the boys are 8 days old?
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you explain it? Why don't we do it like the Arabs, that they wait when they're 13?
That's the mitzvah.
Okay, but that's what Yishmael's timing. Of course, it's the mitzvah. But his timing is, my mitzvah is much more meaningful. Yeah, but I got other areas of life that I could beat you, so we'll be even. You win here, I win there, and we'll just call the draw. Is that what's happening here?
I have an idea. The language that Yishmael uses is velo micha. It's interesting. He says, velo micha means that I didn't protest. I let it, Mashen came, but Yitzchak is saying, I'm willing to be makabel. I don't know if that's like something to pick up on, but Yishmael is saying, velo micha. I didn't protest. If you want to say it better, you could say, and I was makabel it.
Like that. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. No good. Scratch it.
Okay. Dai lechakima beremiza?
Yeah.
Is it also something to pick up on that Yitzchak says, Ilo Amar Yakosh Baruch Hu Zvach Atzmacha, and Hashem never said anything to Yitzchak. He just said to Abraham.
Okay, it's called through a Navi. It's called that.
But did Yitzchak have choice? Did he have Bechira by the Akeida the same way he had by Bris Milah? Did he have Bechira?
Yeah, of course. At Akeida, why not? He's 37 years old. He could say no. Why not? Yeah, I mean, I don't have any reason to say they didn't have any Bechira. The Pashas, he did. No, of course he did. If he didn't have Bechira, why is it called such a big thing on his part? Right. So, Rabbi said, what are you, Taina? So what I want to do is, I think, Ruchama, we have one more week next week?
Up to you.
Okay, so so maybe we'll try to squeeze it into today. Let's go. The Seder.
Next week, 2 o'clock, most people are teaching, I think, already.
Okay, so we'll wish a ksiva chasiba tov at the end of this one, 100%. Voice side, there's a gewaldige nekuda here in this Rashi. Let me bring this point out. Let's bring it out. Biktsara. Yishmael and Yitzchak are arguing about bris milah, and Yitzchak wants to prove them from the Akeida what our bris milah is. That's the lumpus here. Now, how do you do that?
How do you do that?
In our, I'm just trying to find the best words to say it. We have two identities. The identity is what we do. One identity, that what we do shows who we are. and what we do and what we are. It's two different identities. For example, Yisrael afapi shechata Yisraelu. A Jew, Chas Hashem, could do all the sins in the world, and yet he's called a Jew. Why? Not based on what he did, but based on what he is. He's a Yid. And there's no way to undermine that. In addition to that, there's also the identity of doing. We try to do. There's two kinds of anti-Semitisms in the world based on that as well. There's the anti-Semitism of they don't like us doing and practicing our religion. If we'll stop being Jewish, they'll love us. And then there's another anti-Semitism that says, what do you do? I'm still going to hate you. That's Yavan and Amalek. Yavan is saying, stop keeping Torah mitzvahs. And Amalek says, I don't care what you do. You could be Rabbi Chanan Wasserman, the disciple of the Chafetz Chaim. You could be someone who's converted to Christianity. For me, you're the same person. I'm not hating you because what you do. I'm hating you because what you are. These are two identities that go parallel almost to everything, wherever we go. The two mitzvahs that we did on the night of coming out of Mitzrayim. Korban Pesach and Bris Milah. Says the Maral, these are the two. Bris Milah is what we are, and Korban Pesach is what we did. Kabbalah Zol Mechut Shamayim, Kabbalah Zol Mitzvahs, Tefillin Shel Yad versus Tefillin Shel Rosh. It's always these two. The Tefillin Shel Yad is the identity of doing, and the bracha is Lahaniach. The Tefillin Shel Rosh is what we are. Al Mitzvahs Tefillin. It doesn't say any deed. Even in the Torah, it doesn't say, "But you the Totapos B'necha." This is a big sugya, but there's two identities: doing, being. Deep being. Each Jew deep down is the Chafetz Chaim. Each Jew in the world, deep down, is holy of holies. But the Chafetz Chaim was also Chafetz Chaim in the doing part, and that already we differ from each other. But deep down, Elokai neshama shenasata bi tahirahi. It's holy. There's a few halachas based on this. The famous Rambam that you force someone to do a mitzvah, but you're forcing him. Deep down, he wants to do it anyway. How do you know deep down he wants to do it anyway? Because he's a Yid. And deep down, every Yid is a tzaddik. The argument between Yitzchak and Yishmael is, Bris Milah, how do you classify it? As a mitzvah of doing or as a mitzvah of being? Tefillin Shel Yad is doing. Tefillin Shel Rosh is being. Again, unproved to you, but that's a fact. Bris Milah, is that an act that you do, or it's a reflection of who you are? Yishmael's understanding that it belongs in the category of doing. I did it when I was 13. I could have stopped it and I didn't. So in the category of doing, I'm great. You, the Bris Milah was done to you, so it has nothing to do with your doing. Answers Yitzchak, by us Bris Milah is not in the category of doing. It's the category of who we are. We allow HaKadosh Baruch Hu to do with us whatever he wants. Meaning, that identity of what we are, where did that come from? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu did. What we do, that's my free will. What I am, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided. Let's say, if any of us, Chas Hashem, hypothetically, decides one day we don't want to be Jewish, could we do that? No. Why not? Why don't we have a free will on that? How come I have a free will on everything under the sun, but I don't have a free will to decide to be Jewish or not? One of my students once came up to me and asked me, I want to be like a ger. When a ger converts, his kids are little, when they're 13 or 12, a boy or a girl, they're asked, do you want to keep on? I'd also like to be asked if I want to keep on. How come I don't have that privilege to be asked? Why is it shoved down my throat? What's the answer, Rabbi say? How come we don't have a free will? Once you're born to a Jewish mother, so it's over. There's no free will. Nigmal. Lama.
Bechira is on Maisa, but Yisrael, that's him.
Bechira is on my Maisim. It's Bechira is on what I am, on what I do, not what I am. Why is I don't have Bechira on what I am? So you could say, Stam, you don't have Bechira on what I am. I want to be 7 foot. I'm sorry, you cannot. But you could say it's even deeper. what I am is a result of what someone else did. Reuven doesn't have bchira on Shimon. So how could I have bchira on what someone else did? The fact that we were all born Jewish, someone did it. Who did it?
Parents. Avram.
HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Oh, that's what you mean. Okay.
I don't have free will on Shimon. You know what? I don't have free will on my children. I'm going to have free will on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. My children from the age of 3 taught me that I don't have any control over them. So I don't have a free will on them. I'm going to have free will on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The identity of being was done by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We look at Bris Milah as part of that identity. The baby is right born. We do it immediately. If you wait 8 days, there's a reason. But you try to do it as close as possible to his birth. It's not in the parsha of doing, it's in the parsha of surrendering ourselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You know what's the proof that I'm willing to surrender myself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Because I'm willing to do a Bris Milah. To do, exactly what Chaim said before, lo hayiti ma'akev. What does that mean in English, lo hayiti ma'akev? I would not stop it. Not I would do it. I'm going to allow it to be done. Namely, every Bris Milah by us is a mini Akeida. That's what Yitzchak's telling Yishmael. You know what it means? We're taking this little baby that was just born and saying, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's yours. And you could do with him whatever you wish. And Hashem said to do a Bris Milah on him. The Gemara says in Maseches Gittin that in Bris Milah we say the pasuk Alecha Horaknu Kol Hayom. The Gemara in Gittin Daf Nun Zayin. So Rashi struggles. Why is the Bris Milah called that we're always being killed for you? So Rashi says that Chas v'Shalom, sometimes a baby could die from a bris. Asks the Shem Shmuel, that happens 1 in 1,000, less. Answers the Shem Shmuel we're talking about now. The Bris Milah is a statement. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're in your hands, and you could do with us whatever you wish. It's not our doing. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu's doing. And the Akeida then is a direct continuation to that understanding. I'm going to allow HaKadosh Baruch Hu to do. So Baruch Hashem with our children and ourselves, whatever, Baruch Hashem, we're never going to go through an Akeida. But it's a statement. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we are yours, and you do with us whatever you want. That's the argument here between Yishmael and Yitzchak. Is the Milah in the parsha of doing, or is in the Milah the parsha of being done to us, being? Rabbi said, just to conclude.
Is this the Maral? Is this the Maral? Is this yours?
No, this is mine.
Okay.
But it's pretty good. I have a lot of bias to it.
Good.
Said, the first parsha of Shema is called Kabbalas Ol Mechus Shamayim.
Yeah.
The second parsha of Shema is called Kabbalas Ol Mitzvahs. Can anybody tell me in simple English what's the difference between the two of them? And this is not philosophy. This is what we have to feel every day when we say Shema. When I'm saying the first parsha of Shema, I got to tell myself, now I'm going to call myself Ol Mechut Shamayim, the yoke of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's kingdom. The second parsha, now I'm accepting upon myself the yoke of mitzvahs. When you said HaKadosh Baruch Hu's kingdom, doesn't that include mitzvahs? So what's the difference? Not push the kasha.
Right. The first one.
What's between these two?
The first one is Hashem Elokech b'chol levav b'chol nafshecha afilu lo tolef nafshecha. That's complete.
B'chol ma'odcha b'chol midah u'midah shemoided lecha.
Right.
So what does that sound? Pachad Yitzchak Pesach Maimar Samach Vav explains. The first Kabbalah Mechut Shamayim is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you could do with me whatever you want. I have no tinus. B'chol midah u'midah shemoided lecha. I have no complaints. You could do with me whatever you want. The second parsha is, and I'll do for you whatever I want, whatever you want. The first parsha is the identity of being. The second parsha is the identity of doing. Rabbi Say, I want to wish all of you a ksiva v'chasiva toiva.
Amen.
And you have my email throughout the year. If you have any kasha of anything, please share with me. B'simcha gdoila. And you just always remember, you're doing such an avodas kodesh. Ashrechem shezachisem lelamed bonav shel makom, lahanik bonav shel makom, and it should be a ksiva